You are listening to an episode of Megan is Not a Parent, but today's episode is brought to you by Positive Parenting Class Pass. Positive Parenting Class Pass is my quick start to positive parenting. Inside, you'll find 6 simple positive parenting classes to kickstart your positive parenting journey. And the best part about it is that you can start today at bekindcoaching.com/classpass. In today's episode, we'll be chatting about the qualities and characteristics of a safe parent. So I invite you to get cozy, grab your notebook, and let's dig in. Inside this series of going through the 4 qualities of secure attachment and the attachment bond, we are talking through that strong relationships is the dance between rupture and repair. Rupture and repair. Ruptures are mistakes made, it's moments of dysregulation, it's outbursts, it's frustration, it's anger. And those moments are natural and human. And in a secure relationship, we come back and do the repair work. We recover through those moments. And so when we're looking through attachment and navigating through attachment and building secure attachment, we're becoming curious to the quality of our comfortability with our rupture and repair. Again, to remind us all on what attachment theory is. Attachment theory is the quality of the attachment bond that affects your child's development mentally, physically, intellectually, emotionally, and socially. And what I love to, again, remind us is that when we are the parent, when we're the caregiver, our attachment to the child started long before the child had attachment to us. And so those are going to look different. And in my work and in my platform and in my classes and in this podcast, we're shifting you as the parent and caregiver, we're shifting you out of your perspective and positioning and elevating the child's perspective. Because in a secure relationship, we're looking at if the child has a safe base to land. We're looking at, does the child perceive a sense of safety? Does the child perceive a sense of being seen, heard, and understood? Does the child have a sense of being soothed in their moments of distress? And ultimately, what that builds is having that secure bond and attachment with you, the caregiver. Instead of focusing on the details of the things that we have or the activities that we do or all of the details of our life, the work that I do is invite parents to get curious about that foundation, get curious to what is supporting us. It's mostly unseen work. It's mostly unsexy work. And it can be very, very messy. But I promise you that when we invest there, when we invest in building this good, solid foundation, it is worth the investment. Inside of raising respectful kids, we go through these 3 qualities of what makes a good kid, and I position that a supported child is a good child. Another aspect to this is you as the parent. We're looking at the methods and tools and strategies that you use. And I like to say that a good parent is a balanced parent, one that is balanced in kindness and firmness. And then when a child is supported, when the parent is balanced, then that ultimately will start to form a secure relationship. And that's focused on building that secure attachment so that the child can bring their stress and struggles to you and launch from you. So attachment is defined as the relationship that gives you the inner sense of security. Those bonds, those working models that start early on in our life, that inner sense of security that comes from regulation. And as a reminder, if you want to dig into regulation and learn more about regulation and co-regulation and dysregulation, I invite you to revisit season 5, episode 9, where we dig into that. As a reminder, regulation is managing the incoming stimulation with the energy release. I like to describe it as like the thermostat. Like when it's hot outside, we want our thermostat to cool us down. When it's cold outside, we want our thermostat to heat us up. That is the work of regulating ourselves through moments of crisis and moments of shutdown so that we can have a wider window of tolerance. A window of tolerance is the threshold in which we feel calm and content and receptive and open. And when we're feeling upset or overwhelmed, that's a moment of dysregulation. That's when our window of tolerance becomes very small. So when we're quick to anger, we're quick to snap, we're quick to frustration. That means that we're having a very narrow window of tolerance, and it takes less external forces to drive us into a moment of chaos or a moment of shutdown. I like to think about this, and I really want to position this as when a parent comes to me and says they're getting upset for no reason, or they're getting upset for the littlest things. That tells me that their dysregulation is wide and their window of tolerance are very narrow. So things like the color of a cup can trip us into a state of chaos where the child is having a sense of chaos, because that tells me that they need some help regulating themselves, building up a wider window of tolerance so that those moments don't trip us into as quick of a stress response. And we do that through co-regulation, meaning someone who is regulated meets someone who is dysregulated, and they do the work to calm each other down. Where I'm the person of calm, I am in a state of receptiveness, I am calm, I am soothed, I am open, I am responsive. It takes a lot to trip me into chaos or shutdown. And I meet someone who is obviously flipped. They are crying, they are distressed, they are upset. And then we do the work together to soothe and calm down. That's co-regulation. That's something that is normal. That is something that we learn from our caregivers, and we aim to offer it for those in our life. On the flip of co-regulation, we can also have co-dysregulation. And that is where one person is calm and receptive and online, and they meet someone who is dysregulated. They are in a state of stress or shutdown, and then it floods their selves. So then instead of ending up in a place of both people calm, receptive, and regulated, we end up in a place of both people in a state of chaos. That's co-dysregulation. Think about this in when your child is crying, does it overwhelm you? That means that we're joining their chaos. It's just something to become mindful of like, ooh, if their overwhelm becomes my overwhelm, there's some work to be done, especially in a parent-child relationship. I mean, this is different in other relationships, friend relationships, partner relationships, our own family relationships, sibling relationships. But in the parent-child relationship, if you're the parent or the caregiver in that role, the child is dependent on the adult to do that work first. We talk about that inside of the episode. The parent-child relationship is asymmetrical, meaning the child is dependent on the adult to do that work first and then share their calm. It's challenging for a child who is still immature and underdeveloped and still building these skills to provide this service or the support to the adult. That's where we get into misplaced needs. So instead, we're flipping it and saying, hey, this is the adult role. The adult responsibility is to become aware of, hey, well, how am I feeling? Where am I at? How can I get myself back online so I can help soothe the child in front of me? And as social mammals, we need the connection to another to help soothe our nervous system. That's normal. That's natural. That's an element of being in a safe, soothing, secure relationship. And in our own childhood, we created those working models. A working model is something that evolves as we grow. We build it as we live our life. And that working model in childhood is based on how we soothe our nervous system. The question we're asking ourselves is, can we trust ourselves and others to bring us into a state of regulation? And in attachment theory, we can think about the quality of that attachment in a state of trust. We can think about, do we trust ourselves? Do we trust others? And when we trust ourselves and we trust others, that's defined as a secure relationship. When we do not trust ourselves, but we trust others, that can be looked at as a non-secure anxious. We're anxious and we're looking for others to give us the answers. When we're looking at trusting ourselves, but not trusting others, that too is not secure relationship, and it's avoidant, where I'm not going to ask for help. I'm going to fill my own needs. I'm going to do it myself because that's who I can trust on. And if we're not trusting ourselves and not trusting of others, then that is what's defined as a not secure, disorganized. We're searching for that sense of safety. We're searching for that safe sense of security, and it can be met inconsistently. And so it's a bit of a disorganized. The thing that is supposed to soothe me is also stressing me. So it becomes disorganized. And in this 8-episode series, where we're on episode 3 of the 8 right now, we're digging into being the safe parent. We're digging into the qualities of trust and not trust in the sense of safety through the lens of safety. So as a refresher, episode 29 was the insecure parent, and episode 28 was the secure parent. So if security, which is the ultimate outcome, right? The outcome of being safe, soothing, and seeing, then that builds security. If you want to dig into those episodes, I invite you to go back there, listen to those before moving forward with this one. Or really, if you're here, stay here and go back and make sure you listen to the security, because it's a really great foundation to what we're building on today. So looking at the lens of safety, to be safe means to be free from risk or harm. And the metaphor that we've been using, or the analogy we've been using, a little lost on which is which right now. The thought that we're digging into, the visual, there we go, the visual that we're using, I'll use that. The visual that we're using is, does the child have a sense of safety to land and launch from you? If you are like a trampoline, does the child feel safe to bring their stressors to you, become regulated, and then launch back out into the world? And that's from the parent's POV. Does the child have the sense of safety to land and launch? And then from the child's POV, they're asking, is the parent a safe base to land and launch from? So what we're looking at inside of this is the caregiver predictable? Meaning I can start to take risks knowing that my safety net is there to catch me. The other question is the caregiver consistent? When they make a move, or they make a change, or they make some sort of transition, will the caregiver begin to become consistent in the way that they're showing up, so that I, as the child, can start to, again, take planned and assessed risks? And then the last question that we've been digging into is, how does the caregiver recover? And we're taking it through the lens of safety. Does the caregiver create a sense of fear and threat so that I don't take risks, or I don't rely on them to come back for safety? Or do they start to crack and create holes in that, so that when I take risks, I don't know if they're going to be there to support me, even though they want to support me, or they're trying to support me, or they have intentions to support me? If the foundation is cracked, then maybe I'll slip on through. So that's what we're digging in today, is in the recovery, are we working as parents and caregivers, as the adults in the relationship, are we working towards establishing that sense of safety? And so before we dig into the qualities of safety, I want to invite you to think about what helps you feel safe. And you can do this by thinking about a time that was scary for you. For me, I always think about traffic, or a time where even just recently we were driving, Jason was driving, and we were on the road, and there was a really bad thunderstorm, and I could start to feel unsafe on the road. The wipers were working as hard as they can, and the rain was coming down, and there was thunder and there was lightning. And I, as the passenger, was feeling very helpless and was feeling very, honestly, scared. And so in that moment, if I come back to that moment, and it might be different for you, maybe driving in a thunderstorm does not create a sense of not not being safe for you. But think about for you that moment of, oh gosh, I felt scared here, or I did not feel safe here, or there was a sense of threat. And think about in that moment when we're not feeling safe, what can we do or what can we have that helps establish that sense of safety? What helped us feel safe in that moment?
Brain break moment. All right. I know that I can go deep way fast. So let's just take a pause here to take a deep breath in and let it out. And listen while I let you know that this episode is brought to you by me, Megan, and my Positive Parenting Class Pass. Positive Parenting Class Pass are 6 simple positive parenting classes to kickstart your positive parenting journey. Those classes include Positive Parenting 101, which is a class that is just designed to give you the first steps in what positive parenting is and what it is not. Second class is Emotional Validation. In this class, we dig into how can we show up to have your child feel seen and heard in their lived experience. The third class is Setting Boundaries, all about communicating, enforcing, and allowing testing of your secure and consistent and firm boundaries. The fourth class is a class called Ending Entitlement. Inside of this class, we dig into how we are showing up using tools of entitlement and how we can start to release those tools and begin practicing tools of empowerment and choice. And we know that what we put down, they're going to pick up. The fifth class is a class all about natural consequences. This is a class that gets very clear, and you'll walk away knowing what an imposed consequence is, what a logical consequence is, and most importantly, how to begin utilizing natural consequences so your children begin learning from their lived experience. And the final class is a class all about apologizing. I like to say that connection is the most skipped over step and recovery is the least utilized step. So in that step, you'll start to learn how to show up and use impactful and effective apologies so that your child knows that you see them and hear them and care about them. If you are looking to begin your journey today, then I highly encourage you go to bekindcoaching.com/classpass and dig into the classes starting today. As my free gift, you will receive Raising Respectful Kids, which is my 3-part video series all about how to stop focusing on adding on more decorations to your child and to you and to your relationship, and instead starting to reinforce and build a solid and secure foundation together. I can't wait to hear all of your amazing wins from the steps that you take inside of Positive Parenting Class Pass. All right, ready to get back to our episode? Before we get back, let's take one more deep breath together. And take a deep breath in and let it out. And let's go.
For me, when we were driving, I asked Jason, I asked him to put on his flashers. I asked him to go over into the right lane. I asked if it got too much, if we could pull over. He assured me that he felt safe driving, and he understood that I was feeling unsafe. He was validating, he was connecting. And in the moment, I remember we actually did, we pulled over because it started to hail. And once things got escalated for him, now he had a sense of not being safe. And we pulled over, we actually pulled over at a gas station and got underneath the cover until we both felt safe enough to drive. And then we continued on. So when I asked this question, what helps you feel safe? And I explained for me, and I explained what it was like in a relationship driving, I want you to know that those answers are deeply personal to me. What would help me feel safe is going to be totally different than what would help you feel safe, or what would help Jason feel safe, or what would help your child feel safe. All of the answers will be unique. All of those answers will be unique. When we think about behavior as communication, and we're thinking about How was I behaving? In the car, I got quiet. In the car, I started criticizing his driving. In the car, I started criticizing other people for going too fast. That was the behavior that was like creating those flags to say, hey, Megan feels unsafe. It took Jason, who is the driver, to say, hey, how are you feeling? Ask me, invite me in to some awareness, because I started acting scared. He was able to pick up on my cues. He was able to pick up on the tone of voice. He was able to pick up on my body language. He was able to pick up on the things and say, hey, ooh, this is unique to Megan. I can tell because I've been in relationship with her that she's not feeling safe. Let me get into her world. Let me start to dig in. Invite her to connect back to herself, so that then she can share with me, she can share with herself what would help establish that sense of safety. And I say this and I slow down, and I really want to be mindful here that Jason could not say, just don't worry about it. Or don't worry, I'm going to keep us safe. Or there's nothing to be scared of right now. I've driven in rain a million times, Megan. It's not that bad. Those words are invalidating to my experience, disconnecting to me in my experience, pushing me further into the defense, pushing me further to make my message louder, bigger. That's where a lot of difficult behaviors come from, is that we push the message into being louder. Let me get louder and bigger. So then the person who I'm trying to communicate to, or I'm struggling to communicate to, can receive the message. So when we're thinking about this, safety and threat, we're talking about safety today. We're digging into polyvagal theory. And polyvagal theory says that we're actively, often, all the time, engaging in a state of safety or a state of threat. And the behaviors that we can observe in others around us and ourselves is, am I calm? Are they calm? That's a clue that they're in a state of safety. Are they responsive? Are they logical? That's a state of safety. Are they playful and light? Is that person open? Can they engage in conversation? Those are all signs that can observe in ourselves and others that there is a state of safety between us. When we're thinking about threat or not feeling safe, that's when we kick into those threat responses, the stress responses, the fight, flight, freeze, fawn, or shutdown, going silent. Those are the observable behaviors that tells me that a person is perceiving threat. So I am not the person that says, there's no big deal, don't worry about it. We talked about this back through the stress series. When we are in a state of stress, we need soothing. We can become the person that helps calm and establish that sense of safety by regulating ourselves and then co-regulating with others. Or we're going to act like gasoline, and we're going to become a bigger stressor in the moment. And when we're talking about this with parent, caregiver, and child, the question I pose to caregivers and parents is, are you being a support or are you being a stress? Are you working together to find a resolution into a state of safety, calmness, responsiveness, playfulness, openness? Or are the actions you're taking continuing to escalate the threat response? So those behaviors are becoming bigger, becoming more aggressive, becoming meaner, becoming scarier. When we're engaging in safety, the talks of the safety, we can even refer back to those 3 brain zones. The am I safe? Am I loved? What am I learning? This is the bottom-up approach, identifying if I can establish physical safety and I can establish emotional safety, then we can start to access our prefrontal cortex and our executive functions. And so that's why when we're talking about being safe, we can start to now get very clear on what it means to be a safe parent. And in today's episode, we're digging into What does it mean to be a physical safe parent? What does it mean to be an emotionally safe parent? And what does it mean to be a socially safe parent? We can look at those three sort of domains. So in talking about the first domain, the physical domain, we can look at needs and environment. And in needs and environment, we're looking at shelter, sleep, air, protection, clothing, water, food, and play, recreation, fun. And when we're thinking about safety from a needs and environmental, when these needs are not met, when your child does not have enough sleep, the need for sleep doesn't just go away. It just goes unmet. When you haven't slept well the night before, your need for sleep doesn't just go away. It goes unmet until we can establish that need and meet that need. Same with food and water and clothing, shelter, protection, play, air. These aspects help create a sense of safety. Again, deeply personal. It's getting to know yourself and others. What feels safe? What feels enough to you? What feels enough to them? And then an emotionally safe person or physically safe person is not going to judge that someone else shouldn't need that. You shouldn't need or you shouldn't want to do this. You've had enough of this. We're thinking about establishing a sense of physical safety. The question is, how can we start to establish that so that we both are in a state of safety, calm, responsiveness? What connections, what boundaries, what agreements need to be set up so that we can start to work towards establishing being safe. Now, in traditional parenting, if we think about generations before us, this was enough. This is where it stopped, right? I fed you, I give you a place to live, and I make sure that you got clothes on your back. That's where it stopped. Like that was like the marker of a good parent. I signed you up for the things. I took you to all your sports games. That was enough. You should be fulfilled. Unfortunately, we were missing two other elements of establishing safety. And when we're thinking about this, we can now lean in and start to bring light into emotional safety and social safety. Physical safety is a part. Filling physical needs is a part, but it's not the whole part. So when we're thinking about emotional safety, we're now thinking about affection and a sense of importance. Safety in emotional affection means closeness to caregiver. Is your child bringing you their struggles? Do they feel open to share their vulnerable moments, or are they feeling guarded by you? Are they hiding? Are they lying? Remember, clues into like they are perceiving the punishment. They're perceiving the threat. They're perceiving the unease. Their body has shifted into a threat response. So being close means that they are not censoring themselves. They're able to be their true selves. They have a closeness and an admiration. They feel seen by their caregiver, which is another S that we're going to deconstruct. And they also have a sense of importance. They have a strong sense of self. They know what they like. They know what they want. They know what they want to wear. They know what they want to eat. They know it. And for children, especially strong-willed children who have difficult temperaments, they're persistent. They know it. It is a fool's errand to argue with them. Instead, let's shift into listening to them, building in a space for connection, building in a space of, okay, how can we get on the same page so that we can start to foster this relationship together so that I don't perceive you as my adversary. I don't perceive you as someone I have to dominate. I don't perceive you as someone that I have to gain control over, which I know can come very quickly, where we start to perceive the child as the threat. They don't listen to me. That's a threat response. How do I get them to do it? That's a threat response. I can't take them anywhere. Threat. When we, as the caregiver, have a sense of threat, then it's only natural that we're going to invite the child into our sense of perceived threat. Instead, shifting into the, hey, how can I build a sense of safety in myself? How can I start to become safe in myself so that I can share that with others? Where do I not see them wanting to wear something that I don't like or that doesn't match or that goes against my own, this is what is right? Not as a threat, to help them develop their strong sense of self. Because when I do that, then I'm starting to become the safe parent. And the final aspect of being a safe caregiver is the social aspect. So we have physical safety, we have emotional safety, then we can start to build social safety. We're thinking about social safety and we're thinking about it in a family system. We can think about building in a sense of belongingness and community. This is where sibling work comes in. This is where building a sense of identity comes in. This is where empathy comes to play, is having that socially safe caregiver to start to build that working model for you. So the aspects or insights in being a socially safe parent is identifying and sharing values. Values is something that roots into everything I do. When we are grounded in our values, we can start to build confidence in standing up. We can start to stand confident in our choices and our decisions. We can start to make very informed decisions. Recently, actually, on social media, I posted a reel on Instagram and someone came into my comments and we were going back and forth. And ultimately, they quickly backed down. I was actually quite surprised. And they quickly backed down because they were not grounded in their values. I was. I could stand very confidently in the claims I was stating because I was deeply grounded in my values. And ultimately, they actually said, okay, I see what you mean. And yeah, I have some work to do. That tells me, like, whoa, they were open, they were receptive, they came in guns blazing, and then they quickly backed down because they were not grounded in their values. It was a very surface level belief. Another aspect of being a socially safe caregiver, socially safe parent, is celebration of individual accomplishments, where now I see the child separate from me. They're able to have their accomplishments, they're able to have their struggles, they're able to have their failures and rise from them. And I can celebrate them. I can start to celebrate their mistakes, not as moments to be punished for or shamed for, but as moments of learning and growth. And I can celebrate that. I don't need to say, oh, now it's a threat. Oh, they don't want to do this. That's a threat. They're not doing their schoolwork. Threat. Instead, I can start to become curious and start to become, again, building that relationship together to celebrate that this is their life, their path, their journey. And I'm here to create a sense of safety inside of them so that they feel confident to continue rising to the challenges. That's the quality of being a safe parent. And the final aspect is attunement. Attunement we covered last week, and we cover it inside of doing your part, PART. We're going to be digging into it in a future episode, but attunement is showing up in a way that allows me to stay me and you to stay you And I'm able to communicate to you that I get and understand you. Going back to the story of Jason and I in the car, when I started to show that I was uncomfortable, that I did not feel safe, he was able to communicate and attune to my experience. He didn't have to shut it down and say, it's not that bad. It's not raining that hard. It's really not scary at all. He was able to say, hey, I see that you're scared. This is scary. It's uneasy being a passenger in a car when there's rain. It's uneasy to see people darting in and out without their blinkers on. He was able to attune to my experience without taking it on as that he had to have the same experience. He was able to adjust his movements so that he could help support me. He didn't have to pull over right away to appease me, but he was able to say, okay, I see you. I can make adjustments. I can ask what would help you feel safe. I can make those accommodations and be in tune with me so that when I feel unsafe, when I feel out of control, then I can take action. That's attunement. I was able to understand his point of view. He was able to understand my point of view, and we were able to communicate that to each other. Attunement allows us to stay ourselves and allows us to tune into someone else's experience. And that is an aspect of being safe, where now I don't have to feel obligated to take on what they like or dislike, or force them to like or dislike what I like, so that we can have a sense of connection. We can have a sense of connection from being different and yet understood. So when we're thinking about, again, in reflection of being a safe caregiver, I hope now you can start to see how you can start to show up in and assess, is there a sense of physical safety? Is there a sense of emotional safety? Is there a sense of social safety in my relationship? Am I feeling confident in that? Not perfect. We're focused on the process, not perfection. Am I feeling that I'm able to deliver on that? Do I feel confident in moments of stress and struggle? Am I able to establish these back? And I can say with full confidence that my classes and courses help parents become secure caregivers, help parents build in and diversify their toolbox so that they can show up in those moments, so that they can start to feel safe in themselves and others in times of stress. They can start to build a safe community with each other in their own times of stress, so that they can be there for their child's times of stress. So in closing, I'm going to ask you the same questions that I asked the past two episodes. In closing, let's consider, how predictable and safe are your responses in your own parenting struggles? How secure do you feel with your parenting? How safe do you feel in times of stress? How attuned are you to picking up on your child's stress signals? How supported are you in navigating through those moments? I love to hear it. I love inviting parents into this level. I invite you to continue taking steps to go deeper in this. If you have taken notes or dug in or have any journal entries or anything you want to share with me from this episode or any of the episodes, I encourage you to share. I love seeing it. So if you've taken notes or have any thoughts or takeaways, I want to know. And there's 3 ways that you can share. You can share on Apple Review on Apple Podcasts. You can share your thoughts and takeaways on social media and tag me. And you can share your thoughts inside of the dedicated post inside of our Facebook community, Positive Parenting with Megan Ford. Friends, I thank you for tuning in and staying to the end. My mission in life is to help support parents in feeling supported and empowered in doing this work. This podcast, my Facebook community, and my programs and book club all help parents work through the phases of awareness, education, and practice. And if you are ready to take the next step, if you are ready to dig deeper, if you are ready to begin showing up in ways to establish that secure feeling in your relationship, I highly encourage you to take action today and get started with Positive Parenting Class Pass, which is Positive Parenting 101, where we dig into the 5 pillars of positive parenting. Emotional validation, which is where you start to show up and learn how to communicate and build that sense of feeling seen, heard, and understood. Setting boundaries digs into what boundaries are, how to communicate boundaries, why children test boundaries, and why that's a good thing. The class Ending Entitlement helps adults become aware of our own tools of entitlement so that we can start leaning into tools of empowerment. The 5th class is Natural Consequences, learning how to shift away from punishments and impose consequence and leaning into just how to show up and use those everyday lessons as they occur. And then the last is how to step into recovery and apologizing. If going through these episodes, you're like, yeah, I'm ready for more. I want to go more. I want to be able to take action in all of this greatness that we've been talking about. I encourage you to take the next step and register at bekindcoaching.com/classpass. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in to the end. And I cannot wait to dig into more next week. Bye, friends.